Good morning, everybody. IOTR's National Engagement Director, Kenia Link, is our very special guest today, Thursday, March 20th, 2025. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Visit afpwisconsin.com to learn more and to join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. A quick special thank you to some of our recent guests, including 7th Congressional District Representative Congressman Tom Tiffany, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, Wisconsin's 25th District Senator Romaine Quinn, Family Friendly Workplaces Executive Director Neil Klein, and North of 8 founder Emily Gall. You can find a recording of those live shows and all of our previous live shows, including this one, if you don't get a chance to watch the whole thing, on our Facebook page, where we are live streaming this under our videos tab, or our website, DrydenWire.com. Or it's probably just easier to just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DrydenWire. With that, we welcome the National Engagement Director for the International Order of T. Roosevelt and Washburn County native, Kenia Link. Kenia, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that you were able to, because I heard your area got a lot of, you actually got the snow. We didn't. We're supposed to, but we didn't.
Yes, yeah. So since living in Washburn County, I moved south. People still consider this town north, but it's not north to me. Marshfield. We got 9 inches of snow over the course of yesterday. I brought my tape measure out there and everything. 9 inches. So kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh boy, I have my phone on this morning, so I usually have it on Do Not Disturb before a show. But this morning, I'm going to keep it on in case you send a text like, I can't get to work.
No, I'm used to this kind of weather.
Yeah. So a lot of people know you and know your last name and know about you anyway. I want to find out more about IOTR. We had your I suppose your boss, Luke Hilgeman, on. It was a little while ago, maybe a couple months ago, and that dude's legit. But it's kind of fun having you on because now we can talk smack about him. Because I'm sure he's not watching the show, so I want to hear all the dirty details about, he's the worst boss ever.
No, I don't have honestly one bad thing to say about Luke. He and I have a lot in common. We have the same passions, the same interests, which brought us together at IOTR. It's fun to work alongside somebody who's so passionate and somebody who has a lot of experience in the grassroots world and in the advocacy world. So
Yeah.
it's a pleasure, and I couldn't be in a better position, honestly.
Yeah,
At IOTR.
I've yet to hear anyone say anything like negative about him, like the people that I know, and all different, not just like politics or anything, but everything. It's
Yeah.
like Annette Olson, Annette down at MacGyver Institute. She's like,
Yes,
well,
I
yeah,
know.
Luke, he's on our board. I'm like, what? Like everybody knows the guy. And anyway, we'll get to Luke later. Let's kind of start from the beginning for people who don't know you. Tell us about you. Obviously, you were born and raised in Minong, but kind of catch
Yeah.
us up a little bit. What was it like growing up in Minong?
Yeah, yeah, I loved growing up in Minong. I really did. Small town, you know everybody. You get to know everybody around you. My graduating class at Northwood High School was 17 people, which, that's not a very common fact for people to share. So
Yeah.
that was always my fun fact in college was, yeah, I graduated with a class of 17 kids. Um,
I remember Minong. We used to play them in basketball, and we would go there. And the 3-point line, when it goes to the sides, to the edges, and you're supposed to have some space between the end of the 3-point line and out of bounds, it would just go right into the out of bounds.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. However, I have heard people complain about that same thing.
Yeah,
Since then, the gym has changed a lot. So,
sure, sure. So growing up with the last name Link, obviously
yeah,
tied to Link, what was that like?
yeah. I mean, really, it's been an honor, to live out a legacy of the Jerky family. I'm really proud of my grandpa, my dad, and my uncle, and all the work they've put in. I'm fortunate to have learned a lot from them down the road and to take on some of those characteristics in the hardworking mindset world. And it taught me work ethic, and it taught me how to really just chase your dreams and reach your goals and work hard day in and day out. And it's everybody knows our family in Minong because that's a big part of Minong is the jerky company,
Yeah.
obviously. And so I mean it was definitely a good thing more times than not. So it jerky, the jerky girl is a fun nickname
The
that I get.
jerky girl. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I obviously, if there's like a short list of names that people know in Washburn County that pretty much everybody knows, if there is a list, I would think that the Link name would be on that list, and probably the Dryden name. Just well, this is before DrydenWire, but because of my dad being a sheriff for 28
Yeah.
years, and I think overall it was good and kind of cool. But there are some times that, I don't know, like I go to get an oil change and, yep, my name's Ben Dryden. Oh, Dryden, huh? Are you the sheriff's son? I'm like, I don't know. Have you been arrested lately? Because then it's just, hey, it's just coincidence. So there's always a little bit of challenges, but I think overall, that's kind of nice. But you decided not to go into that stuff. So you graduated and you go where?
Yeah, so when I graduated high school, I moved to Madison. I started college right away. I went to the UW Madison and studied social work and decided I wasn't done with my education yet and decided to get my master's. And I also studied social work for my master's with a focus in policy and administration. So that kind of shaped my career into where I ended up. And yeah, now I love advocacy and standing up for what I believe in the most. And that's ultimately what brought me, in this office right now and advocating for the right to hunt and fish. That's been a big passion of mine. Obviously, being from Minong, you're surrounded by a lot of lakes and a lot of woods, and that's pretty much it, to be quite honest. So you get creative and you learn to fish, whether it's on your own or, in my case, my dad taught me how to fish and hunt. Um, and it became a lifestyle. It really did. And since I literally could walk, I was hunting with my dad. He was carrying me on his shoulders through the woods during when we would be chasing bear or tracking a deer or whatever it was. I mean,
Mm.
since I was really little. So it's been a lifestyle for me. And I think when I moved to Madison, I realized just how much it really, meant to me because in a city you can't hunt as much, especially in a capital city. It's definitely more urban,
Yeah,
than
yeah.
than a um than a small town or like a smaller city. So it really just confirmed that I'm like, okay, yeah, I like the smaller towns. It was a great college town to live in. I had a blast. But I was ready to get back to the smaller areas and to continue those traditions that I knew so well.
Well, I think it's important. We've always encouraged our kids to get out, like graduate. My mom did that. My mom, as soon as 3 days after I graduated on Friday, I was gone on Monday. Not 'cause I didn't love my parents. I love my parents, but I'm ready to go. And mom and dad encouraged us to do that, which is interesting because kind of like you and even my wife, same thing. Went and she was all across the country, but we ended up coming back here. But I think you kind of need that perspective, that
Yeah.
contrast, to be able to actually. You don't really appreciate it because
Yeah.
my our kids say the same things that I said when I was a kid. There's nothing to do in this stupid town. I hate living in a small town, right? And everybody knows
Yeah.
everybody, and oh, I don't like it. Well, then you start to appreciate that as you get older. So when you were in college, so you graduated, you had a master's degree. That was in social work,
Yes. Yes. It was in social work. So it's
and
an
you wanted to do
MSL.
what?
Basically, when I was in undergrad, I thought I wanted to help people one by one, whether it was, at a like supplemental level from the government standpoint, trying to help people get back on their feet who wanted to make an income or, who were struggling to do that. I thought that's the approach I wanted to take, or the mental health approach too. But I figured out really fast through my studies that it became more relevant to me to focus on the macro level of helping those people, which basically means, looking at it from a large
Yeah.
picture and thinking about why these people are having these problems in the first place. So um, I decided to focus my study on that, and I took more classes around. government stuff and policy stuff.
Really?
And yeah, and just understanding how government works and how it can either be a trampoline for people or how it can be a hot tub for people, I guess is a good way
Yep.
to describe it. So, yeah, I wanted to really understand how I could impact that and how I could have some sort of leave a mark on society in some way. And I I figured out real fast in undergrad that I wanted more education, and so I went on for my master's, and I actually got that done in a year.
Oh,
Um, I
that's
fin- I finished both degrees in 5 years, so that's definitely something I'm really proud of.
holy
Um,
cow.
yeah, yeah, it was. I worked hard. I'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that.
So when you
but
graduated and you have the degree, what do you go into? Did you go into that field right away?
Yeah, so pretty much in grad school, I studied policy and administration, which meant I day in and day out, I was working to understand what it would be like to run a nonprofit or to work in a nonprofit space. And then to be a leader in that space is basically the best way to simplify what I learned throughout that time. So basically, right out of grad school, I realized a really relevant campaign that was coming on, and a big passion of mine is the Second Amendment. And so I took my first job, literally, as you said earlier, I graduated on a Friday and left to train for this new job on Sunday night. I flew out and got trained in to work for the NRA as a grassroots campaign director in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So
A
I lived,
director of it right out of college?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
I ran that whole area, the Brown County area and surrounding counties pretty much, and led some campaigns over there and had an absolute blast. Rallied up a really big group of volunteers and got to know a lot of really passionate people. And, it really set the foundation for what the future would hold
So,
for me.
so how long were you at the NRA? They're doing
It was
that.
It was about a year. It was for a campaign right out of college. So I graduated in May. So it was a little less than a year because it
Okay,
was May to the end of the year,
sure.
basically till the election.
Got it.
So,
And then what?
and then basically throughout my time there, I became really familiar with AFP.
Hey,
Um,
speaking of
yeah,
AFP. All right.
they were doing a lot of campaigning in Green Bay for the same candidates that I was. So, we would cross paths
Sure.
and, talk about the same types of things
Mhm.
and, you know, get to know each other. And Tara was actually the girl who was with AFP at the time who I ran into, and she was like, "Well, you should look into AFP." And so I did, and there was an opening in my favorite part of the state, northern Wisconsin. And so they needed a person to fill in the Eau Claire area. And I was like, okay, this could not be more me. So I took a job with them, and was also an engagement director. Um, at the local level of Eau Claire and the surrounding areas. I actually ended up representing all the way up to sometimes Superior. I would door knock up there too, or I would do events in Minong, and because that's where a lot of my people are. So
Yeah.
I was able to rally the troops, so to speak.
Yeah. How long were you with AFP?
That was over a year, a little bit over a year. So, and then along came this position. So now here I am at.
Okay, so it was NRA, then AFP, and now where you are now. How did you get from AFP to IOTR?
Yeah,
Did you
so
apply to them, or did like Luke? Luke, I think, has a good eye for talent. Did he kind of recruit you?
yeah, he did, and some of his colleagues kind of did too, and they had been in touch with me back when I was in the NRA too, back when Luke was with Hunter Nation.
Right.
And we knew that we had a lot in common when it comes to our goals and our passions, and um, we knew that we would probably end up working together someday. And yeah, it just kind of worked out.
But when you have to make that decision, I mean, AFP. It sounds like it was a good experience for you.
Yes,
Um,
I loved my time at AFP. It
yeah,
was
so that's kind of be a young person like I'm in the Northwoods ish, not quite, but close ish, and but you get to
yeah,
spend a lot of time in the Northwoods.
yes,
Things are going well, and AFP obviously it's a big organization like that. That could be like some people's last job, right?
yeah, yeah.
But then you still left though. So what was it about IOTR or Luke that you said I can't pass up this opportunity?
Yeah. So I mean, I really struggled to say, goodbye to AFP.
Hmm,
It was really tough for me because I made a lot of really close friends there, which I'm still close with all of them, and we stay in touch. And I still try to get to some AFP events here and there. But I mean, it was really tough because basically when I knew I had to do it was when all of my passions became condensed into one job. It
sure,
instead of focusing on a lot of things all the time, and some things that I wasn't necessarily an expert in, I just I saw this opportunity come up, and hunting and fishing are really at the forefront of everything I care about the most. So, and in this position, I'm able to showcase all of my talents throughout every day. Speaking on here is something I love. I love to public speak. So,
hmm.
taking every opportunity like that is something that I really enjoy. And then social media, I really enjoy. I enjoy networking and recruiting and fundraising. I enjoy a lot of things and I wear a lot of hats in this new role. But ultimately, it was the best decision for me, and I'm really glad I made it.
Former Representative Angie Sabick, I think she kind of answered that question already. Do you plan on going back to AFP? Sounds like probably not, because you're loving what you're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah. For now, I mean, IOTR is going to be home to me for quite some time. So I'm really I'm really putting all of my effort into this job. Not that I wasn't at AFP, obviously, but
Right.
I'm really putting in some roots into this job. In fact, we are actually launching a podcast, and I'm going to be the host. So
What?
yeah, and we're launching it a week from tomorrow, so March 28th. It's next Friday. It's a pretty exciting deal for me.
And what is the? Tell me more about the podcast. What is it about? Is it guest driven? What kind of guests? Is it just you just talking like solo, or just always the same people? And also, where do people go to watch that?
Yes. So the podcast is called Hunt Fish Freedom, and it's presented by IOTR. You can stream it on wherever you listen to your podcasts, so it'll be everywhere.
Audio
And
and video, or just audio?
yes. So the first episode, it'll just be audio. It's episode 0, and it's just kind of an intro episode. But
Sure.
otherwise, the rest will be similar
Nice.
to this, capacity of
Yep.
like a Zoom call, so to speak.
Yeah.
But some of them will be in person too, which will be really fun, and I'm
Ooh, yeah.
excited to do that too. But a lot of the time, it'll be myself and one other guest. So it'll be guest driven a lot of the time, but Luke and I will get on there together, sometimes with guests too. Um, Otherwise, yeah, I mean, Luke and I will go on there
Yeah. Hold
often.
on a second. Who's Carrie?
That's my mom.
That's your mom. Okay.
That's
Hello,
my mom.
mother. Tell us an embarrassing story um, about Kenya. Yeah,
Oh
put
my
that in the comments. Wow. When she was a kid.
Oh
Okay, maybe
boy.
don't do that.
Something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the podcast will be really exciting. I encourage everybody to check it out. And I think, whether you hunt or fish or not, there's always going to be something to learn.
Sure.
And I think everybody in Wisconsin has some sort of, especially in, Washburn County, I think everybody has some sort of relation to hunting and fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Their kids do it, their brother does it, their friends do it, or they do, or they all do it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, opening up the door to learning more about it and learning more about why people have a full-time job like me to protect these things, and why it's so important to people like myself and Luke, to work a full-time job to protect hunting and fishing.
Mm.
And a lot of what we talk about will bring that to life. So we'll have guests on there that sort of bring the hunting and fishing world to life, and we'll talk about those stories, and we'll talk about why it's so relevant to our heritage, whether it's a guest from Wisconsin or it's a guest from Oklahoma or whoever it is. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of really fun guests on there. So I already have like 10 episodes ready to go. So if anybody is listening to this and wants to be a guest on the show and thinks that you could add some value, definitely let me know, and we can work something out. And I think, Ben, you should definitely be one of our guests on
I
there
don't
too.
know. So it's
I
interesting.
think that would be a cool episode.
It really wouldn't, because it's I don't want to say anything about it, but you had just mentioned that everyone in Northwoods has a tie to it. I literally don't.
But
Didn't grow up hunting, fishing, don't know anything about it. I don't like it's not that I don't like the outdoors, but I don't know. There's nothing good in nature for me. No, no,
you're
no. Thank you.
familiar. You grew up around
Oh,
it.
I did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So people who do it, and people who are really passionate, and I think you mentioned that you were gonna go, or you were gonna try planning a fishing trip or something
I
like
know.
that, and then you never did. I
Yeah.
think you should.
All right. Well, thankfully, here's your mother. While bear hunting at 4, she carried 3 purses full of lip gloss. Is that true? Can you confirm that?
That is true, and there's actually a photo somewhere um,
Oh boy.
of me sitting. I think I was sitting on the back of my dad's truck, and I had 4 handbags on my arm like this, and they were full of lip gloss. Yeah, so I might be an outdoorsy girl, and I might give off tomboy vibes sometimes, but I also am a big girly girl, and I do carry lip gloss with me when I'm out. So
So I do a weekly show with Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald. And anytime something comes up, a question or anything about politics, he's a cop's cop, right? And a lot of law enforcement is. They don't care if you're a Republican. They don't care if you're a Democrat.
yeah,
They just care, what are you doing to help law enforcement? That's all they care about. Or
yeah,
mostly, I should say. That's the driving force behind who they kind of support. How is it for your field, your world? Maybe not even specifically IOTR, but
yeah.
maybe under that umbrella. I'm not sure where to kind of go with that, but is it we don't care if it's Republican or a Democrat or independent, don't care about any of that stuff. Just what are you doing for the conservation? What are you doing under our umbrella? That's what we care about. Is that accurate? Would you say that?
Yeah, there's a quote out there, and it's actually a quote that AFP stands by, and it's I will work with anybody to do good and nobody to do harm. And I can't remember who says it. It's gonna bother me, but it'll come to me eventually while
Uh,
we're on. But basically, to answer your question, yes, we will work with anybody to make sure that hunting and fishing rights are protected for generations to come. It's not just about me and you and my dad and the people who hunt now. It's about the people for generations to come. We want our kids and our grandkids to live out the same legacies that Teddy Roosevelt's, our namesake, set in place. And I think that a lot of the time, like, I mean, I was just out in Maine actually testifying on behalf of IOTR and TRA, trying to talk to the legislature and to a lot of the people out there and encourage them that hunting and fishing needs to be a constitutional right. And there's a lot of Democrats out there who hunt. So out in Maine, for example, I mean, there were a ton of Democrats who were listening and they completely agreed. And then there were some Republicans who didn't, and then there were some Republicans who did. So I mean, it's not really, we're a nonpartisan organization, IOTR and TRA. We really, at the forefront of everything we do is to protect hunting and fishing, and to basically prevent anything from intruding on that. So, upstream thinking, very proactive thinking in this organization. We try to prevent all of those animal rights activist groups to leave the hunting and fishing community alone and to understand that what we do is science-based, and it's also so important in conservation. Hunting is conservation, fishing is conservation. So, to answer your question, yeah, we'll work with anybody to do good,
When
and
Luke
nobody
and what was the last part?
and nobody to do harm.
Nobody do harm. Uh, when Luke was on, he was sharing a story about, I think it was Seattle, if I'm remembering right, something like that. It was about like they're trying to ban fishing, and I don't know what capacity. I don't know, like just the average person or like commercial. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
You travel around a lot and talk to a lot of legislatures and a lot of influential people, or to try to protect those rights. What are some of the craziest things that you've heard in other states that I'm sorry they're doing? They want to do what?
Yeah, yeah. So this last election cycle in November, there was a proposition on the Colorado um, ticket, and it was to ban mountain lion hunting and basically all forms of cat hunting. And ultimately, it ended up getting defeated. So luckily, there were a lot of conservation groups that made sure that that bill wasn't going to get through, or that proposition, excuse me,
Mm.
wasn't going to get through. And see, the problem with that is it's if you eliminate predator hunting, nothing is going to maintain that population, and those predators get out of control and then they impact every other species. So in Colorado, for example, I mean, people love to hunt there and people love to fish there. And imagine, one day not being able to elk hunt in Colorado, or not being able to mule deer hunt or whitetail hunt, or whatever kind of hunting you like to do in Colorado. I mean, there's a ton of kinds of hunting you can do there, and it would just be absolutely devastating if we didn't listen to the science and we didn't listen to the experts, and we listened to the animal rights activist groups, and we put the emotion first. It's people like to put the emotion first when it comes to hunting, and you think
I
about
think in
the
a lot of things, by the way, emotion
yeah,
they really do. Yeah.
yeah, I agree, not just in the hunting space, but I mean,
Yeah.
and it's, where do you draw the line? It's like, okay, so you are not okay with bear hunting because they're fluffy animals,
Mm.
but you know, but you're okay with people plowing fields to set up solar panels that kills, tons of baby deer and tons of rabbits and tons of bugs. I mean, there's no line to be drawn, it's it's just a weird gray area that they bring to the table, and it's extremist. And what we do tries to avoid those problems from happening, altogether, instead of spending time and money and lots of campaign time and lots of blood, sweat, and tears into time of defeating a proposition like that. Instead of doing that, if Colorado had the constitutional right to hunt and fish there, we wouldn't have ever had to deal with something like that. And so Luke, when he was probably talking about Seattle, yeah, they banned some sort of fishing up there, or some sort of
Yeah.
hunting, and it's criminalized. Like, you're
That's
literally
what
a
it was. Yeah.
criminal. Yeah, you're literally a criminal if you. I can't remember what kind of fishing it was,
I
but
can't either. I can't remember.
you're literally a criminal if you do it. So it's like, okay, this is absolutely absurd. This shouldn't be happening. So
Mm.
I mean, and there's 24 states that have the constitutional right to hunt and fish, and Wisconsin is one of them, luckily.
And
And
didn't Luke get one done or IOTR? Wasn't it? There was something in Florida? I thought, wasn't it?
yes, yeah. So based on a lot of our efforts at IOTR and TRA, and then a lot of other coalitions in Florida, yeah, we were able to pass the constitutional right to hunt and fish last November. It was a really, really great success we had, and that the state of Florida had. I mean, it was
Yes.
it was great, and the numbers really showed, that people care about hunting, and they care about conservation, and they care about prioritizing protecting the right to fish, especially in the fishing capital of the world. You would think that would be a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Yeah,
Apparently it was, because it
it's
was.
Seattle,
So,
though. I mean, come on. Does that surprise you at all? I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's
right.
right or wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't surprise me. I'm
Yeah.
glad Wayne brought this up because I was literally thinking the same thing. Question: how
Yeah.
do you feel about the wolf population in Wisconsin, or just maybe even just over that the general topic of that? Because every time, seems like every 3 months, so we have Tom Tiffany on monthly. It seems like every other show at some point it's going to come up, and he's sending out another press release saying, "Oh, introducing this bill." From like, I thought we took care of this a while ago. It's been going on for a long time. What are your thoughts about the wolf population in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it has been going on for a long time. And in my lifetime of hunting whitetail deer, from a little kid to now, I mean, the deer are just not there anymore. There's no numbers of deer in the woods like there used to be. It's absolutely disheartening, and it's hard to get out of bed on a cold November morning to go hunt when you know that, maybe here's another day that I don't see a buck or I don't even see a deer. And so
And you're
not
saying
this,
that's because of the wolf population is
yes.
what it is, that they are killing the deer.
Yes, I think
Oh.
I think that that is a huge part of what's going on in northern Wisconsin, and I think that that's been the case in northern Minnesota too. People just don't hunt like they used to
Mm.
because it's so discouraging. And so, not this past year, but this past November too, we saw a ton of wolves when we were out doing deer drives.
Mm.
Tons of wolf sign. My little brother actually came right up to a fresh kill. He walked right up to a fresh kill from a wolf during a deer drive. And the year before in our hunting group, we eyeballs on wolves 9 times in our group. We saw like literal eyeballs to wolves 9 different times during the 9-day gun season.
And when you put that in a comparison to, I don't know, 10 years ago or when you were younger,
Yeah.
how many
And
would you have seen?
I mean, back then, I don't even think I ever saw wolves
So you're seeing
ever.
more. It's not. I mean, it's hyperbole. You're seeing more wolves than deer sometimes. No, I'm
Yeah,
sure that's not
no
actually
kidding.
accurate. But of course, that's going to have a huge impact on our economy. Right? And like one down year, even though I don't hunt, I absolutely think people should
Mhm.
for a whole bunch of reasons. And one of them, of course, is just from an economical standpoint. And the tourists. And in one down year, it's not the end of the world. I think Senator Romaine Quinn said that on one of our shows that he was on, that we can survive that. Two,
Mhm.
that's a little tougher. You start hitting three, people are no longer, they're going to start selling their cabins. And they're just
Yeah.
not going to, they're going to go somewhere else. When you see a 30% drop every year, like that is going to start having an actual impact on our economy. Like, no
Yep.
joke. It legit will. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, even at our deer camp, a lot of the guys don't even want to come up because they come up and they don't even see deer. So it's like, we run out of time really fast in 9 days. 9 days seems like a long time, but it's not when you're hunting. I mean, and white-tailed deer are very elusive animals. They're very smart animals. They're not easy to outsmart. They're especially during the rut, that time of year, it's a great, it's what it's all about, is hunting. It's for the fun, and it's for the challenge a lot of the time. And it is challenging no matter what, but the wolves, I think, are making it even worse.
So
So
why do you think this isn't getting done? I'm sorry. What's the argument on the other side? I'm sure I'm wrong on this, but I thought I saw recently there was something like 1,000. And again, I'm sure I'm wrong, but there's more now than there have been in a long time. And I think one of the what they're trying to get done is, okay, we need to kind of manage the population, but we're not really kind of doing that. So they're just getting more and more. Why do
yeah,
you think this isn't getting done? Why do you think that there are still advocates for let's protect the wolves? Again, we're not trying to get rid of them, right?
yeah, yeah,
Just uh, kind
exactly,
of.
trying to maintain the
So
population.
what is their argument on their side that you're aware of?
Yeah, so basically they're listed as an endangered species. And that's ultimately, I think, the biggest problem. And I think that people don't do the research and they don't get the experience in the woods and they don't actually see what's going on. And they think, oh, well, these are endangered species. We don't need to hunt them. We don't need to worry about their population growth because they're endangered. And that makes sense. I mean, I would probably
Yeah.
think the same way if I didn't know really what was going on in the woods. And I mean, there's you see on Facebook all the time the maps or the terrible tragic screenshots that people post of their dogs
I
getting killed.
know.
Yeah, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Or like our calves or, baby horses or
Yeah.
their chicken coops or whatever it is. I mean, I see it all the time online because it happens a lot. And so it's like, okay, where's the emotion in that? It's like, do you want people to lose their dogs and their pets and their livelihoods all the time? Or are we going to do something about the wolf
It is
population?
interesting to see what people choose to care about.
Hmm.
I'm not
Yep.
faulting people for that, right? If that's what you
Yeah,
believe, then
yeah,
that's perfectly fine.
right,
I probably
right.
disagree. I don't know much about hunting, but I listen to smart people, and they're like, "No, we could easily manage this. We
Yeah,
just could. Like we can. It's not like we're getting rid of all the wolves, but there's a way
yeah,
we can have a balance here, and that's everything that I've heard, and that makes sense to me. My pragmatic, logical brain just makes
yeah,
sense to me.
yeah. And I mean, not that long ago, there was a wolf season where people had tags and they maxed out the tag amount within like 24 hours or something like
Wow.
that. Yeah, and that was, I mean, I think that's very telling in itself
Yeah.
because, I mean, you don't see wolves unless it's nighttime or unless you're in the woods around what they're trying to eat, I guess.
Remember earlier when I said there's nothing good that happens out in nature? There's another example.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Wolves.
you have a point there, that's for sure.
Hold on. So Wayne, this is a great thing that he just brought up again. Thank you, Wayne. I read they want to raise hunting and fishing licenses. That will that deter people from buying licenses? I like that last part you put it. Will that deter people? Will it actually mean people like, well, now that it's this much, I'm not going to do it after they've probably spent I don't know how much money on all their gear and all their stuff, right?
Right.
And actually, I think it was IOTR. I think it was. I think it was a press release that we put out, or it was a statement from IOTR. This was a few weeks ago
Yeah.
that had that, and the graph we got from Representative Chance Green. Yeah, there's a lot of strong opinions about that. What about you? Will that deter people from buying licenses?
I mean, I think it definitely won't help. I don't think it'll help new people want to come to Wisconsin or to come to northern Wisconsin to hunt. I don't think that making it even more expensive to come up here is going to help. Um, I don't know if it'll deter people. I think it's fair to say it'll deter some. I
Sure.
think that some people are like, okay, well, it's more expensive there. Why would I go up there? I'll just hunt where I'm from. Like that's what I would do. I mean, personally, like if I
Yeah.
was from Madison or if I was from Chicago and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just hunt closer to home. Why would I go drive all the way up to Minong, Wisconsin to hunt if I can get a license and hunt here instead and
Right.
save, $20 or whatever it is. I mean, some people penny and nickel and dime everything that they hunt. And I mean, you have to in today's economy and you have to be careful with how you spend. But I mean,
Hmm.
it's it's one of those things. It's not going to help, I don't think.
All right, we have a question here from Paul. Licenses have not been raised since 2005, with the DNR being $60 million in the hole. Do you think some of the surplus should be used for the DNR? You should run for political office, by the way. These are. But
I
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the GNR needs to be more transparent with what they're spending and how they're
Yeah,
spending it. Um, that's what I think, and I think that once they do that, we can talk more about how they're
uh-oh.
spending is key.
Oh, I think you may have frozen there for a second. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, I did freeze for a second, I think. I can
Oh,
hear you now.
okay, and we're back. Live shows. What are you going to do? All right. Well, we're almost up against our time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, getting to know you. We should do this again, but always we have room for. Is there anything else that you want to discuss that we didn't get a chance to discuss?
I don't think so. I think it's
We didn't get a chance to talk about Luke. Dang it.
next time.
Next
I
time.
think I encourage everybody to check out our social media pages, the IOTR Instagram account and the IOTR Facebook
Instagram.
account. We're also on X. And yeah, I think giving us a follow, and that's a good way to keep up with what's going on in the conservation world across all 50 states. It's not just Wisconsin. It's informative all over the country. And yeah, and you can see what I'm up to. And yeah, and then we'll also put some plugs on there about our podcast launch next week too. So we'll have all the links to go and tune into that next Friday. So
Well, I'm too old for Instagram. And I had to leave X. That is a toxic place. You think Facebook is bad, folks? Just go to X. And maybe it's changed since it's been X, because I left right around that change when it went from Twitter to X. Not because of that. It was just, I can't look at this stuff. It's just the worst. It sucks my energy. It's so bad.
It's a lot of political commentary and, threads of just talking about whatever people are passionate about, which it's kind of cool because you can learn a lot from, what people are saying about whatever it is.
I know.
And it's a cool spot to check out, but it can be exhausting. I agree.
It can be. Dave Wilson, our friend Dave Wilson, former Shelley Police Chief. You should take Ben hunting. Show him how it's done. It's nice to see a Northwest Wisconsin gal advocating for hunting and fishing. Can you please use your position to continue to educate folks on the wolf predation issue in Wisconsin?
Will do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe sometime we could go hunting or we could go fishing.
Let's start with fishing. I mean, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable around guns. I mean, I grew up, shooting guns, like target practice stuff, with family law enforcement. Actually, I'm not really uncomfortable around guns. I'm uncomfortable around people with guns.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, well, Dave. If Dave comes over, he's always got a gun, right? Or my dad or my brother. But these people, they know what they're doing. It's the ones that I don't know that they have a gun, and then I find out, like, I don't know, I'm a little weirded out. I don't know, but fishing, there's a much better chance that I'm going to come home. But someone's going to have to bait the hook for me. When it comes Supreme Court race, does that have anything to do with you guys? Does it matter at all, Supreme Court race at all?
It matters a lot. I mean, IOTR hasn't taken a stance on the Supreme Court race. We don't usually get involved on too much stuff like that. But I mean, my personal opinions are very strong about that race. Brad Schimmel needs to get elected 100%, and everybody needs to get out and vote. I mean, it's not a political conversation when it comes to the Supreme Court. And
I'm sorry, you were talking about social media, and now you're saying that it's not political. What are you talking about?
I know it shouldn't be, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Because I mean, when you're enforcing the law or you're ruling the law in any way, you should just be following it by the book, and you should be.
How is that so difficult for people to grasp? It's not. We expect that from our local judges in our counties. Why would just do that? Like, just do that. Don't be an advocate. If you want to be an advocate, run for I don't know, legislature, or do something else. I don't know.
Yep, agreed completely. And I think that this lady on the other side is doing nothing but that, in my opinion. So I mean, I'm very passionate about it, and I think everybody needs to inform themselves as much as possible and get out to vote.
How do you think it's going to end up? I mean, it's going to be super, 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 super tight. It really is going to come down to, of course, which side is more riled up.
Yep.
Because it's going to be that close of a race. But I don't know. It's a flip of a coin for me.
Voter turnout. Everybody needs to get out and vote. Remind your friends, your family, your neighbors. It's important. Everybody needs to get out and vote.
Get out and vote when Hunter Nation did a thing about that. Right. That's right. Because I think it was Senator Rob Staffschulte that ended up getting me connected to and then having Ted Nugent on for a show. And that's what he had talked about. Part of that was and I can't remember, but the statistics were like really, really low like for people that hunt and fish, much lower than the average in terms of voting. And they were really trying to do this. I can't remember what the campaign was called, but something about get out the vote. But for
Probably
hunters,
Hunt the Vote. I think Hunt the Vote was the
hunt the vote.
campaign.
That's what it was. Have you noticed? Are you aware if that's gone up at all in the last few years, or is it no
I mean,
pretty dismal?
that's part of what we try to do at IOTR too, is engage the hunters and the fishermen to get out and vote, because like Hunter Nation has talked about on here before. I mean, a lot of the hunters and fishermen, they care, but they just don't show up to vote. And sometimes they don't care either, but they have to realize that every election impacts everything you care about.
Yeah.
Like whether it's the Second Amendment, whether it's your hunting and fishing rights, whether it's, rule of law and order, and a lot of other ways. I mean, so it's just important to inform yourself and to not use Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as your news source, or the ads that run on TV. I mean, they're ridiculous.
They kind of are on both sides. They're just kind of
Yeah, they are, and it's kind of comical to me, honestly.
You have to laugh about it.
You do, and I think getting out and actually talking to these candidates. I mean, they're all over the state. They're doing events all month long. I mean, go to an AFP event and talk with Brad Schimmel if you have questions, or go to to I don't even know who's hosting events for the other candidate, but go to one of their events,
right. Yep.
go talk to them, go ask questions, find out, get to the bottom of it and inform yourself, so that way when you get to the ballot box, you can really make a educated vote and a decision. Because I mean, the stuff they put on TV, it's just all it's to trigger emotion, like we talked about. That's all it is.
To elicit a reaction. 100%. So wait, who is this Tyler guy?
Is it Tyler Budaslavich? That's my boyfriend.
Because I feel like that picture
looks
that's kind of like you. He said, we don't hunt in northern Minnesota at our cabin anymore because the wolves eliminated the deer population. That will happen in northern Wisconsin if they don't let us control the wolf numbers ASAP. I would ask you what you think. However, no matter what, you're going to have to say something nice and agree with you, because it's your significant other. I mean, you have to keep
I always stand my ground. I don't agree with just anybody, but I do agree with what he's saying, and I do know a lot of people who have that same problem, who used to hunt in northern Minnesota, and now, I mean, there's not a deer in sight because of the wolf populations, and it is getting that way in some parts of northern Wisconsin. Up in Iron River, my family has some land, and holy moly, the amount of wolves up there is just crazy.
Really?
And they're coming in, from, I mean, the population, I don't know exactly how it works, but the population is slowly growing and slowly taking over northern Wisconsin, and it'll just continue to do that, I think. So,
all right. Well, how long you been dating this Tyler guy?
Well, I've known him since I was like literally 4 years old. He's been a close friend of mine ever since.
Do we like him, or do I need to?
No, we like him.
Okay.
He's good.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. It's the father in me. I have daughters. So, sorry. Who's this idiot now? I'm sorry. He's not an idiot.
With me. He goes to deer camp with my dad. My dad whips him into shape. No worries.
Well, good. As long as there's, right. You need that. Everybody needs that, especially for a dog. Don't you appreciate that? Like my older daughters do now that they're, 22 and 26. Mm-hmm. But our youngest daughter, she, Riley, who's 16, she doesn't really appreciate it much yet, but she will when she's older, because that's a dad's job. That's just what we do.
It is. It's all part of it, though.
It is. That's great. Awesome. Well, Kenia, thanks so very much for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to have you on again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Ben. It was a blast. I look forward to hopefully coming on again soon, too.
Yay. Special thank you to IOTR's National Engagement Director, Kenia Link, for taking the time to come on for a chat today. And, of course, thank all of you for your comments We will see you on Tuesday when Barron County Sheriff Christopher Jail and I'll be back for our latest episode of our weekly Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, saying thank you for watching and have a blessed day.